Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We're about to call this meeting of February 21st to order. Before we do, I'm going to stand for a moment of silence, followed by the Pledge of Allegiance to our flag. Anyone who would like to join me, please feel free to do so. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Before we get underway, I do want to read my opening statement that I read at every meeting, just so everybody's all on the same playing field. I would like to welcome you here this evening to this business meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education. Before we get started on our agenda tonight, I want to do a little housekeeping and be sure that everyone here is all on the same page. As previously mentioned, this is a business meeting of the Sumner County Board of Education. The public is not only welcome, but invited to be our guest at any meeting. We're here tonight to conduct the business that is on our agenda, and that is exactly what we're going to do. In the past, the chair has requested that all who are present adhere to the rules and follow proper decorum, but this has been an issue to some who decide that they do not want to follow the rules. Those rules include, but not limited to, no applause during the meeting, no outbursts, willfully making noise that is distracting to the podium or board members, yielding to the chair when called to do so. I was elected by a majority of my peers on the board to chair the meetings and to see that the job gets done, and I intend to fulfill my duties. If disruptions break out, you put the chair in a position that I prefer not to be in, but we'll face it head on. The chair has several things that can be done in this case. The meeting can be recessed for 10 minutes, 10 days, or as long as the chair feels it necessary. The chair can adjourn the meeting, and this meeting will be over. The chair can have the disruptor or disruptors removed from the meeting, or the chair can clear the room completely. I prefer to have a very respectful meeting and not to have to deal with any of this, but I am prepared to do so if necessary, and there will be no warning. This is your warning. I wish none of this. I wish only to have a productive meeting with all of you here simply respecting and obeying the rules. During the recognition of public, all comments are to be made directly to the chairman. You cannot call out any board member, school district employee, or other members of the public by name. Inflammatory, disruptive, or vulgar language that, in the opinion of the chairman, is intended to elicit a reaction from the crowd will not be tolerated. If these rules are not followed, the microphone will be cut off and the speaker will be instructed to take a seat. I thank you in advance for being our well-behaved guest. The first item on the agenda is roll call. Mr. Johnson, do we have the roll?
Yes, sir.
Mr. Wise is out. He called me this afternoon. He sounds terrible. So remember him in your prayers. You go to pray. He is sick tonight, so I know he would rather be here, but he is sick. First item on the agenda is approval of regular agenda as presented. Is there a motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. Daniels, second by Ms. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, I'd like to add an item to the agenda tonight. I'd like to add that we extend the deadline, the application deadline for the Director of Schools beyond February 24th, which is this Friday.
Motion's been made to extend the...
And the reason, I don't mean to interrupt, but the reason is we've had so few applicants so far that I feel like we need to just keep it open for another, I mean, we can talk about how long, but that's the reason I'd like to extend.
Okay, motion's been made. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lancaster. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, I'm sorry, Ms. Hawkins?
So how long would we extend, and how would that affect our place in line as far as getting the best candidate?
Well, I mean, we'd have to get it on the agenda before we talk about how long.
The motion that is adding it to the agenda.
And it would be an agenda item. That's why.
Right.
And it would be an agenda item, yes. All in favor? I'm sorry.
So this, your vote now would be on the amendment.
On the amendment?
Add that agenda item
Right.
into the agenda for tonight.
Correct.
That's what you're voting on now.
That's correct. So all in favor say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? No. I believe the noes have it.
How many noes?
Can we divide the assembly?
We can do a roll call vote if you'd like.
Yeah.
Mr. Johnson, would you take the roll?
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes. Mr. Lancaster. Ms. Andrews. Mr. King.
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins.
No.
Mr. Daniels.
No.
Mr. Gregory.
No.
Mr. Lacy.
Yes.
Chairman Brewer.
No.
Motion fails.
All right, we're back to the main motion, adopting the regular agenda. And motion and second has been made. Any discussion on the regular agenda? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is adoption of the consent agenda. Is there a motion on that?
Motion approved.
Motion approved by Mr. Gregory. Second by Ms. Andrews. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is consideration of, I gotta get my glasses on, I can't see this stuff. Is consideration of minutes, discussion and interaction of the minutes of January 24th. Motion approved by Mr. Lancaster. Second by Ms. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is recognition and hearing of delegations. We'll call your name and you come down. If I mess your name up, it's because your handwriting is like mine and I can't make it out, but I'll do my best. The first one on the agenda is Kevin from Portland. I'll just do that and let him. Mr. Kevin, if you would give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak on an agenda item.
Absolutely. Kevin Bagert, 424 A.B. Wade Road, Portland, Tennessee.
Sorry, can I interrupt you for just 1 second?
You're not affecting my time, are you?
No, I don't want to affect this time, but if you could remind people to speak on what's on the agenda, don't get off on rabbit trails.
I just did.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay. The first thing I'd like to speak on is the consent agenda. Regarding the consent agenda, for obvious reasons, I believe that if there's a flaw in the layout of the agenda, to have the consent agenda items to get considered and potentially approved prior to allowing the public to speak is just not the right way to do it. But anyhow, so back to the consent agenda. Regarding the Equalis agreement, I applaud the concept of leveraging the huge potential of intergovernmental purchasing organizations. I look forward to hearing on a monthly basis whether Sumner County citizens realize any savings and whether the 2 to 3% fee that Equalis charges pays for itself. Pertaining to the February bids and purchases, I'm curious to understand whether the above-mentioned Equalis agreement would have helped reduce any of the bids and purchases logged in February, especially for all the items purchased from CDWG, totaling in excess of $2.7 million. Then regarding policy 1.404, I appreciate and support the apparent loosening of the rules pertaining to addressing our school board, as listed in the draft. I'm, however, concerned that some of the proposed verbiage is still too restrictive, especially in light of the 2021 Sixth Circuit ruling in Eisen versus Madison School District Board of Education, the 1983 Supreme Court of the United States ruling in Perry versus Perry, and other case law. I hope you consider those things before you set in stone those policies. And then regarding the proposed policy changes for 4.301, I applaud and support the proposed changes in the highlighted text as I understand it, especially regarding the fact that there are only 2 sexes. However, I believe that leaving the first sentence in the first paragraph of the policy intact as it stands creates potential ambiguities, if not contradictions and conflicts. Thank you very much and have a great evening.
Thank you, Mr. Kevin. Next item on the, or next one on the agenda is Ruth Fennell. Miss Ruth, am I pronouncing your name right? Fennell.
I'm a Fennel.
Fennel.
Someone's a Fennel, but it's okay.
Okay, thank you.
It all works out.
If you would give your name and address for the record, you'll have 5 minutes to speak on any agenda
Okay,
item.
but it is 5 minutes, correct? Okay, thank you.
My name is Ruth Fennell. I live at 1049 Blue Jay Way in Gallatin, Tennessee. 7 years ago, February of 2016, after 2 months of unnecessary back and forth emails and phone calls, I stood before the school board to speak against the use of taxpayer money in a lawsuit that was fighting open records. I reminded the board and administration that according to the Tennessee Constitution, Article 1, Section 1, subsection 23, that I had every right to instruct my representatives and to apply for a redress of grievances. I reminded them that they had spent almost $85,000 at that point, when that money could have gone to buy everything from 250 more MacBook Air iPads.
Ms. Fennell, I'm sorry, you wrote that you were wanting to speak appearance before the board?
I will get there, absolutely. I am, this is dealing with the appearances, yes.
Go to the part where speaking on the agenda item, please.
That's related to the agenda item,
It's
to
not,
the appearance.
It's not related to the agenda item. 2016 has been a long time ago.
It is,
And we're not
because,
talking about a lawsuit, we're talking about appearances before the board. So please stay on track.
all right, the very next sentence, when I finish this one, is that because certain people on that board did not like the fact that I used their own appearance policy, thank you, to be able to speak to them, they went around their own processes, inappropriately changed the appearance policy for section BCBI. They did not follow their own rules on the proper review sequence. They did not properly hold a second reading, instead saying that they were waiving it due to matters of unusual urgency. And when they canceled the second reading, they did not follow their own procedure by posting what the unusually urgent matter was. Anyone who was around at that time knows what the unusually urgent matter was, and you're looking at it. You now have the ability to right that wrong that was done 7 years ago by voting to restore the appearance policy to what it was. I'm not sure if the amendments being offered will be for 5 minutes, which it was at that time, or whether it would be reduced 40% by 3 minutes. I would prefer that it be restored or maintained at 5 minutes. As I said then, and as I'm saying now, I am one of the watchmen on the tower to you, and if you hear the warning but do not take it, the consequences are yours. Something to keep in mind, according to Thomas Jefferson in a letter to Henry Lee in August of 1824, men by their constitutions are naturally divided into two parties: those who fear and distrust the people and wish to draw all powers from them into the hands of the higher classes, or number two, those who identify themselves with the people, have confidence in and cherish and consider them as the most honest and safe, although not the most wise depository of public interests. In every country, these two parties exist, those who fear and distrust people and those who are with the people, and in every one where they are free to think, speak, and write, they will declare themselves. So I'm asking you tonight to right the wrong that was done 7 years ago and restore the broadened right of citizens to appear before the board on items that they feel are important and that the board should consider, and make sure that we remain at 5 minutes. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Fennell. Next is Jessica Norris. Ms. Norris, if you would give your name and address for the record, and you'll have 5 minutes to speak on an agenda item.
Hello, my name is Jessica Norris, and I live at 1041 Mansker Farms Boulevard in Hendersonville. I want to talk about the appearances before the board agenda item. Since I prefer email communication, I'm grateful most board members have been consistently responsive to my emails, eager to help, and have shown they value my engagement on agenda and non-agenda items. This is important to me, and I know it's important to other citizens who do not have the time or ability to attend and speak at in-person meetings to be heard. Opinions will vary widely on whether or not the policy should change to include public comment on non-agenda items. Regardless of what you all decide, I find it unacceptable that one of the board members pushing strongly for this policy change happens to be one who does not respond to me consistently or answer my email questions. If you think all voices deserve a chance to be heard, I'm going to ask you to show that to all citizens, not just to the ones who voted for you. Your decisions affect us all, and you are here to serve us all. If you can't fulfill the bare minimum requirement of answering direct email questions, I find it hard to believe altering the policy will make communications any more efficient or effective. Thank you.
We don't. We don't ask questions here.
Board policy allows us to ask questions of the speakers.
How many times have you personally said you don't just light your light up?
Several times.
One time.
Last
I've
email a
responded
month
to
ago
you
was have
one
you
time.
read the
Mr. Lacy. Mr. Lacy, she had the floor.
But I'm allowed to ask her a question.
If you ask the chair first, you don't just light your light up and go to speaking.
I don't see that in our policy. It just says, I believe that,
Next person on the list is Rebecca Goddard. Ms. Goddard.
Mr. Chairman, I believe that we're allowed to ask questions. It doesn't say we have to get permission from the chair.
Robert's Rules of Order does, and that's what we're doing.
Yeah, but our policy has that.
Robert's Rules
stated.
of Order, our policy says that we go by Robert's Rules of Order and parliamentary procedure, and that's parliamentary
Yeah.
procedure.
Okay, so
We wouldn't
I
have
remember
any
other
before.
people on this, chairman now speak. I remember other board members talking to people, actually interrupting people, asking them questions, and he actually took up their time during their time to speak.
Who are you talking about, sir?
Am I allowed to mention their names?
No.
Okay. That's all I was asking, asking the speaker a question.
Are you done?
Yes, sir.
Thank you. Ms. Goddard?
Good evening. My name is Rebecca Goddard, and I reside at 2339A New Hope Road. I have two boys, one at Beach and one at Hunter. And I'm here to address the agenda item about allowing public comment on items not on the agenda. There are benefits and reasons y'all should vote yes and allow this. One, the First Amendment. We all have a right to speak in a public forum. Two, it allows for collaboration between parents and schools and the board. Three, the board, who is pretty sheltered from what is really happening in schools, can find out more of what is going on. When parents have praise or problems at schools, parents go to the principals or the teachers, and I'm sure there are many reports of all kinds that you just don't hear and you just don't know. It's a fact. And I don't think that you always know what's really going on in the school. This gives parents who may not have an opportunity or a relationship with principals to address their school board. 2 study sessions ago, a board member here spoke and gave their opinion about hearing public comment. He stated that meetings were for business and not for hearing public comments, as if our children were not our business or worthy of being heard at this board that we fund and pay for. I found this comment abhorrent from a board member that represents children and parents. To glibly say that he reads parent emails between Monday Night Football commercials and halftime and gives us that little time and attention is the reason that I think all parents should be allowed to come here and address this board, because it's our board. That any public official believes that the only time that we deserve is that of football commercial time shouldn't be on any board and shouldn't be making any decisions, especially for my children. Thank you.
I'm sorry, my mic wasn't on. Joanna Daniels?
Hello, my name is Joanna Daniels, and I live at 152 North Shadow Haven Way, Hendersonville, Tennessee. Okay, so I am going to talk about a few things. One is the appearance before a school board, and I too am in favor of allowing non-agenda items to be spoke about, to be talked about. And however, I think that some of the language is a little bit vague, and it says the chairman shall have the authority to terminate the remarks of the individual who is considered abusive. And I'm not quite sure what abusive means, and I think that needs to be defined, because your thoughts of abusive could be different from mine, so that needs to be clarified, so that we, the public, know what you mean by that. Also, as with some of these people, I think that being able to speak here because I have a unique situation. I don't get responses from emails, but my emails get sent to third parties and get posted on Facebook. So I would really like it if we could speak on non-agenda items so that people like in District 1 don't actually post my emails that they don't respond to. Okay, so next one, the consent agenda. About the buses, and this is with the EPA grant. In September 20th of 2022, you guys spent $731,000 to purchase 6 buses. And now you are retiring 10 buses in order to get a grant from the EPA for $200,000 for 10 buses. However, those buses have not reached the 18 years according to TCA 49-6-2109. And so I'm just curious, were the 6 buses in September going towards the 10 buses that you're retiring to get a $200,000 grant, which we're going to end up spending $1.4 million to get a $200,000 grant? Just trying to figure that out. And then also, the budget item for the Innovative School Modules grant for $724,000, and the money is going towards all of the schools. And this is by Tennessee SCORE, and Tennessee SCORE, I'm not quite sure, they've been here for a while, and if you look at the nation's report card on schools, Tennessee is always below average in the nation. In 2004, we ranked 214. That was below the average. 2013, 2020, this is in grade 4 reading. And in 2022, we're back down to 214, and the average national is 216. The only year that we reached the national average was in 2019. Grade 4 mathematics, in 2011, we were at 233. And we only reached the national average of 240 in 2019, and we're back down to 235, so only 2 points ahead of our 2011 average. So, and SCORE has been in Tennessee for a few decades now. I think they started in 2010, maybe a little bit earlier than that. But my question here is that Tennessee on the average is always below national average. So why are we taking SCORE, who's supposed to be helping us to, what do they say? They inform and influence state policy, which obviously their informing and influence state policy hasn't had a very good effect on our schools, since we can't even hit the national average according to the national report card. And SCORE works to ensure public education in Tennessee continues to deliver academic progress. Well, their report card hasn't shown that. And then also, they want you with this grant to reimagine time, space, partnerships, and models of learning. Well, I wouldn't take any of SCORE's recommendations, because obviously they haven't been helping us in the last 13 years. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Daniels. Next item on the agenda is reports from the director. Dr. Phillips.
Yep, we don't need matters involving council. I want to mention someone that's in the audience that I think most of us know, but it's the first time I've seen him at a board meeting. Wade Payne, back in the back, one of our favorite people. It was good to see you, Wade. Chase Moore is going to come up and talk a little bit about the ISM, and this is very exciting for us. This is part of the funding mechanism that was approved by the state legislature, and he's going to go into that. It's going to be a huge lift for us in our CTE programs, which we're already #1 in the state of Tennessee with CTE pathways of all the districts in Tennessee. So Chase's team have done a phenomenal job. Our principals, our CTE principals, and he's handed out some information so you can kind of see that. But he's going to go through this because it's going to be in several steps, and I think he'll go through what's on the agenda this evening But these were all funds that were appropriated through the state legislature, actually last year, right, Chase?
Yes, sir.
With the governor. And some of you may remember when the governor put out $1 million per high school to upgrade equipment and expand programming for CTE, and $500,000 for the middle schools. Chase is going to go into that, but I think it'll answer some of those questions. And we'll see this, but then the second part of accepting the vast majority of that money, $13 million or so, will be actually part of what we do with our budget process. But these are funds from the state legislature approved last year that are just now actually coming to the school districts. Chase, go ahead. Thank you.
Good evening, and I appreciate your time tonight. And I want to thank you for listening tonight, because I feel like this money has the chance to change the trajectory of CTE in our schools for years to come. And I think when you hear what we're doing with this money, you'll kind of see why. Now, the first thing to know about this grant is most grants from the state through TDOE are competitive grants. And so there's a set amount of money after you apply. Some districts get the grant, some districts don't get the grant. This is not that. This is a grant where after you apply, there might be some back and forth with the state to meet that minimum, but you're going to get the money. It's not competitive. The money's set aside. And so, now I will tell you, this is a bad slide. I know that, too many words, but here's what happened. When they released documentation back last July, there was an 8-page document that talked about why they have the grant, deadlines for the grant, the rubric, all kinds of stuff. I think these 2 sentences do a great job of summarizing the reason for the grant and all those 8 pages. So here's the 2 sentences. The $500 million state investment in ISM is a way to eliminate structural barriers that exist between high school, workforce, and post-secondary, ensuring that all students graduate high school prepared to successfully complete a post-secondary credential or attain high-quality employment. ISM is TDOE's strategy to empower schools to transform the traditional high school and middle school models to foster a culture of college and career awareness and readiness. And I feel like what we're going to do with our 21 middle and high schools is definitely meeting what they're putting forth here. So, what is it? And Dr. Phillips kind of alluded to it. About a year ago this time, Governor Lee announced a one-time investment of $500 million in CTE. And that was passed by the legislature for this fiscal year. And so here's the way that it was written to kind of distribute the funds. And so every high school would get up to $1 million for CTE, every middle school up to $500,000, and then combination schools, so think Merrill Hyde Magnet, that's combination school, could get $500,000 as well. So for us in Sumner County, with 8 high schools at $8 million, 12 middle schools at $6 million, and 1 combination school, that's $14.5 million for CTE. So here's the timeline put out by TDOE. So last July was when all the documentation came out. It was an FAQ, a frequently asked question document. It was guidance. It was rubrics. It was all the information about how the grant was going to work. Now, there were deadlines throughout the year. The first deadline a district could apply was September. There was one in November, and then the last one was actually February 1st, but early January they pushed it back to March 31st. So a district our size with 133 high school CTE teachers and 36 middle school CTE teachers, it took us a while to kind of figure out what we're going to spend the money on. And it's a 4-year grant. So it's one-time funds for $500 million, $14.5 million for us, 4 years to spend it. Now this is year 1. Now just so you'll know about the amendment you see tonight is only the funds we're going to spend by June 30th. And so that's why the numbers are different per school. It was based on kind of what the schools asked for. It was based on vendors we know turn around products pretty quickly. We didn't want to purchase something in May and get it in December. So the reasons those amounts are different is because of that. A majority of the funds we're going to spend will be the 23-24 school year, which is the upcoming school year. So here was our process. Now, just to be completely transparent, I taught marketing. I don't know what welding teachers need or what a health science teacher needs. They're the experts. So what we do with all of our funding in CTE, the experts, the teachers, tell us what they need, and we do our best to get it for them. And we did that with this process like we do with every process. So here's what we did. I took all the documentation from TDOE and we put together a 2-page document. That went out August 22nd to all of our CTE teachers and to all of our administrators in middle school and high school. Then teachers had a month to talk about and put together their list of what they wanted to ask for. So we encouraged them to talk with other teachers at other schools who taught the same content areas. They had a month to kind of figure out what they wanted to buy. So after that month, it went to the administration. So at the high school level, that was to the assistant principal for CTE. At the middle school level, it was to either the principal or assistant principal, whichever one they wanted to have the responsibility. And then the schools had a month to put their school list together. So teachers give their individual list, then the school compiles one big list prioritized for the entire school. So they had a month to make that big list. And then that came to us, and we had about 3.5 months. So we made 21 budgets, one budget for every school, for every penny allocated, the full $1 million for every high school, or $500,000 for every middle school. We also had to answer plenty of questions, narrative questions about how we're going to spend the money, what our plans were. We had to get letters of support. It was a large process, which is why we took another 3.5 months here at the central office to kind of get this to the state. And last Monday, February 13th, we submitted our application to TDOE. So some expenses. Now this first one here, now backtrack. Everything you're going to see here is not just what's in the amendment between now and June 30th. What you're going to see here tonight is big picture 4 years of the grant. So don't think about this as, hey, this is what we're going to buy right now. It's not. Most of this is actually going to be next fiscal year because that's when we have much more time to spend the money. So I think the biggest kind of most innovative item and the item that it could have the most impact is a CTE career coach for every high school. It's a position we don't have right now. And here's kind of how to think about it. Gallatin High School currently has a position that's a graduation coach. They work with those students who maybe are a few classes behind, need help getting across the finish line. So we see this role partly supporting counselors, being able to meet more consistently throughout the school year with some of those students who might need that extra push to make sure they get to that point of getting a diploma at the end of high school. The other side of that position is going to be helping our CTE people. So that's going to be advisory council meetings, going to chamber meetings, partnerships with local employers, helping students find jobs, being sure that not only do they graduate, they're set up for success after graduation. That's the ultimate finish line. It's, hey, what are we going to do after you graduate? Are you prepared? Do you have the tools to be successful, whether it's resumes, whether it's interview skills? All that work's going to be on this CTE career coach as well. So we're excited about that piece. Some capital items. So one thing to think about here, we challenge our teachers. And in the book you have tonight, you'll see the way the classes are. Each program builds level 1, level 2, 3, and 4. The level 4 classes, it's usually a senior year class. So we challenge our teachers, hey, what can you do in those upper level classes to simulate a business experience? Now, there's 2 ways they can get experience. One is they actually go work. And we have plenty of students that do have part-time jobs and work after school. Not all students can do that. For some students, we have to have that work experience inside the classroom. So how can they have what we call a school-based enterprise and obtain job experience at the high school level? So a lot of these capital items are going to relate to those school-based enterprises. So for example, at one school, they have a few classrooms that are unused. So their plan is they want to renovate those classrooms into one big open space, have like a small business hub. Think meeting rooms, think cubicle areas, think equipment like 3D printers, laser cutters, large printers, where they can actually create products for the school and for people in the local community and get those students experience they can't get necessarily unless they have a job. That's one example. Another example, one of our health science programs at a school has some extra space around their classrooms. They want to create a space to replicate a clinic. I mean, how cool would that is? You're a student. You don't. I mean, a lot of them go to work at clinical settings, but what if you had a type of a clinical setting in the high school? So just to get that feel with the beds and the curtains and the equipment, that's the idea for that school. Another idea, one school has a shop space that is kind of underutilized. They don't use it for much. So renovating that shop space into a criminal justice lab for that school. Another idea, at one of our schools, the teachers have visited several marketing and IT businesses, both locally and in Nashville, and they look different. I mean, think about the way those businesses are set up now. There's couches, there's lounge chairs everywhere. They want their classroom to feel like you're walking into one of those businesses. Not a classroom at all. Hey, I'm going to this setting. I feel like I'm working in a marketing department, and it's a marketing courses. And so that's what they want to renovate their classrooms to give students that feel while they're in high school. Very cool idea. Some greenhouses. Several schools want to either build new greenhouses, including middle schools too, or renovate existing greenhouses. And then lastly here, many of our middle schools have kitchens in their social health classrooms. Several schools want to renovate those kitchens and kind of update the look and feel of those kitchens. So those are just some examples of some of the capital items we're talking about. All right, equipment. Now again, this equipment is not going to be equipment we buy now. This is probably next school year. And this is not for all schools. It's just some examples of some of the larger priced items and things we're looking at purchasing. And here's the goal behind the equipment. We want to make sure our students are learning skills that are immediately transferable to the workforce. That's the goal. And so you'll see with some of this equipment, that's what we're doing. So for example, a robotic welder. If you've been to any manufacturing facilities locally, manual welding still takes place, but so does robotic welding. Some of those standardized welds that are happening now are pre-programmed on robots. So one of the schools wants to purchase a robotic welder and have those students be trained for that skill immediately upon graduation. Super cool idea. Another one, a virtual welder. So think about a level 1 class. Well, before you go there and start laying a bead to start welding, let's practice where we're not using up supplies and make sure you know what you're doing before you actually start welding. Another use for this could be that when it's 8th grade awareness night. Hey 8th grader, come over here and check out this virtual welder. You want to take welding now? Well, they probably do. So it's kind of dual purpose for something like that. Another idea. One of our schools has emergency services program. And so think about the back of an ambulance, take that, stick it in a classroom. What kind of training can they do? That's in the classroom. So that's an idea one of our schools has with the ISM funds. Another idea. If you're on social media much, a big sports fan like me, you'll notice that a lot of social media around collegiate and NFL or professional sports is around content creation. It's photographs, it's short videos, and that's big business at a lot of these colleges and universities now. But one of our schools wants to work with their athletic department at the high school to create some of that same kind of content, whether it's photography and or video. And so they want to have a whole setup in their classroom, not exactly like the one in the picture, but similar. Another idea. I'm sure you're all aware that last year, all of our health science classrooms were able to be outfitted with an anatomage table, which has completely transformed the learning that takes place in those classrooms. Well, several of our ag teachers are jealous now because they love those tables. Well, they have researched and found out that they now make an anatomage vet table. And so think about the same way that they use in health science classes, now they can teach vet lessons on these same kind of tables with using the interactivity of an anatomage table. All right, a few more items here for you. I actually had a call today about this one with Ball State and NUCA. NUCA is the National Utilities Contractors Association, and I looked this up, so I got this again, not my area. Think about excavators, dozers, track loaders, backhoes. There's serious demand in our area for people to run those equipment. They don't have enough employees to run it. So Ball State has a program now, beginning the first cohort, I think begins in March, where after 4 classes, students can begin working on that equipment. So the call today was, hey, high schools, are y'all able to teach that first class that leads into that program, which is going to cut 25% off the time for those students? Well, we can teach that first class. So one of our schools potentially might get a heavy equipment simulator to kind of get students encouraged to take those courses. Another idea, machine shop. One of our schools wants to update a lot of their lathes and mills in their machine shop. That's one idea. Several schools want to get an officer training simulator for their criminal justice department. I mentioned school-based enterprises earlier. Some of those renovations, here's what kind of goes inside those renovations as far as the equipment. So a direct-to-garment printer. Several of our schools now have this. So the way it used to work is, and I was a marketing teacher, is what I did when I ran the bookstore. You work with the printer, you tell them what the design is, they design it for you, they purchase the shirt, you buy it from the printer with a small markup, you're making a profit. not a ton. Well, now what we're learning, and 3 schools already have this, more schools want to do it, the only expense now is that shirt, just a plain shirt. Now students are designing what goes on the shirt, students are printing the shirt, students are selling the shirt. So think about entrepreneurship. They're learning the whole process from beginning to end is taking place in the classroom. So several schools want to have a direct-to-garment printer. Animal grooming lab. Several ag programs already have this. More want to add it. So animal grooming labs. 54-inch printers. So one school now, they've got a huge printer. They're printing banners and posters and graphics for the walls. More schools want to do that. So what's cool is what's happened in the last couple of years is as some schools get this equipment, other schools get jealous of it and want to get it too. So this money has allowed that to happen where we're able to kind of get more products throughout all of our high schools. And then a floral shop. Many of our schools already do greenhouses, but a next step for one school is they want to be kind of more advanced and actually have a floral shop to go along with the greenhouse. So that's just another idea. And then lastly, most of the, I say of the $1 million, a majority of the money, a large majority of the money was teacher requested and school focused. But there were some district initiatives that we have for every school. And these are items that every school is going to get off the top for the next 3 years. So continue our CTE special interest camps. In the summer, these have been extremely popular the last 2 summers. We've had camps in culinary, camps in welding, camps in engineering, camps in all kinds of areas. We want to keep that going summers of 24, 25, and 26. We're going to have money to allow us to do that the next 3 summers. Career exploration activities, both at the middle school and the high school level. This means projects and access to sites to give our students more preparation to know what careers are out there after high school. Transportation for work-based learning, middle school and high school. So think about field trips, think about industry tours. For middle school, it could be transportation to career fairs and career days. All that could be used with the ISM grant funds. Funds professional development. Lots of our teachers, especially with this new equipment, have to get trained on the equipment, learn how to use the equipment. And so funds set aside to train those teachers on what they need to know. Industry certifications. Now just so you're aware, my first year was, I'm in my year 6 in this role. My first year we had students earn 111 certifications, which is great. This past school year we had students earn 922 industry certifications. We're talking about not only OSHA 10, but Microsoft Office certifications, certified nursing assistants, certified personal trainers, AutoCAD, all kinds of areas. So these are students that don't just say on a resume, I can do this. Here's my proof. I've got a certification that I can do this skill. That's what we're preparing our kids for. So, and with the ISM money, we're going to have so many more certifications. It's going to be great. We'll be well over 1,000, I think, every year, beginning in a year or 2. Another option, dual credit. So the way dual credit is, and this is in 3 areas, marketing, criminal justice, and medical terminology. A student takes a high school course, Vol State makes an exam. If the student passes the exam, they get college credit, which is great. The only issue is it's $25 to take that exam, which can be a barrier for some students. So we're putting money in ISM, the cost is covered. So no barrier to take that test. We're covering the cost, take the exam, see if you can get those 3 hours. I think it's a pretty good deal. And again, my first year we had 17 dual credit exams passed. We had 183 students pass the dual credit exam last year, which each equates to 3 hours of credit. And then lastly, access to online curriculum. Textbooks aren't very popular for us because in a year or 2 they're out of date. Like our curriculum is always changing in CTE. So online curriculum allows them to have access to curriculum that's updated kind of more often and doesn't go out of date so fast. And so that's just a sample of what, I mean, that's nowhere near $14.5 million, but that gives you kind of an idea of where we're headed with our ISM funding over the next rest of this year plus 3 more school years.
Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, this is it's amazing where we're going. I was sitting here thinking as you were talking, I graduated in 1995. Feel really old when I say that now, thinking about where we are right now. But I came from a family where my parents went to college, my sisters went to college, my aunts and uncles went to college, and so you know, while I was never forced to go to college, like going through high school in my mind, it was always take honors classes, get good grades, get scholarships, so I'm ready to go off to college when I graduate. That's just kind of where I was. That was kind of my upbringing. Not forced to do something, but just kind of that was what I thought the expectation was. My wife, completely different background growing up, didn't have any family members go to college, went through a semester of college, you know, because of financial issues and other things, she wasn't able to graduate. Spent the last 10 years getting her LPN, and this May she'll graduate from Western with her RN, so I'm super proud of her. Had the ability to stay home a little bit and raise the kids, and so now she had the opportunity to go back and work and get her degree. But we have 6 kids. My oldest son, 22, not a college kid, just mentality, went through auto mechanics, very sharp in those areas, and graduated and now works, you know, at a tractor trailer repair company. Good job, good benefits, good money. My oldest daughter, you know, she went to Vol State for 2 years, and now she's at Western, business, I think Spanish major. I've got 3 younger children. 2 of them love athletics. One of them may be a broadcaster because he talks all the time and knows every fact you could possibly think of, except how to clean his room, but that's a whole different conversation. And then my youngest daughter is very dramatic. In fact, she's at the 4-H speech contest for Sumner County tonight over at Schaefer, so hopefully she's doing really well there. But my middle daughter, she graduated from high school last year, and you know, I remember picking her up from prom, and she had her, you know, her college plans laid out and what she was going to do, and she was going to go to UTC Chattanooga and had her roommates, and I could tell just like there was something going on. Like as a parent, sometimes you can sense that there's just something that they're dealing with. And I remember picking her up at around midnight and bringing her home, and we were sitting in the driveway, and I just said, "Hey," I said, "What's going on? Like, you know, what are you dealing with?" I said, "You know, I know you're planning to go off to college. Is that what you're struggling with? Is that what you're dealing with?" And I told her, I said, "Look," I said, "I know what I did when I got done with high school." I said, "I know what your mom did. I know what your brother and sister did." I said, "But I don't want you to think that we have any expectation of you to go and do something if it's not what you want to do. Like, as a parent, like, all I want is for you to be happy, like, and live a life that you're proud of, no matter what that is." And we had a chance to really talk about what was going on, what she was dealing with, and what her career ambitions were. And the next week she came to us and said, I don't feel like I'm ready to go off to college right now. I don't want to go there. I want to go to Vol State. I've got a job here. I'm working. I've got some opportunities there, and I don't know what I want to do just now. Is that okay?" And I said, "Absolutely. Like, I just want you to be happy. That's it." And so she's been at Vol State, involved with their drama program, loves her job she's doing right now, and said, "You know, I think I want to be a drama teacher." So now she's taking classes where maybe she can move in that direction. She's auditioning for some shows in the area and things like that. And I know it's a long story, but the point I'm trying to make is, man, I got 6 kids, and they're all different personalities. You know, and we look at our school district, and every kid has a different mindset, a different idea of what they want to do. And when I graduated, like, we had some CET classes, but it was, you know, like drafting classes and some other things. And really, I feel like that was more prep for college than prep for career. And so when I look at what this money is going to allow us to do and the impact it's going to have on our students, to help them understand that, hey, like, you don't have to necessarily live your life to go to college to feel like you're worth something. There are things that you can do, and yeah, it's great that we have AP classes, these other opportunities for them to earn scholarship money and earn dollars towards their college credits. But all these things that you're talking about, the certifications where they can step into jobs, especially in some of our more industrial communities like Portland, White House, we've got factories and the welding needs and the EMT opportunities and nursing programs, to step out of high school and be a step ahead and prepare themselves both financially and possibly successfully to have a good career. I think it's amazing where we're going. I mean, even when we think about agriculture, because agriculture is so big in our community, like agriculture and running a farm isn't just like planting and watering crops. There's so much more to it than just that. Right. And we have the opportunity, as you said, I think at the beginning of your presentation, to really change the course of our student body and where they go in the opportunities. In my mind, when I think about what our goal is as school board members, it's to provide our students with the best education possible and prepare them to be good, productive, successful citizens when they graduate. And I just think the opportunities here and what we can do with this money and the chances that they can have to find what their passion is before they graduate and then be able to step into a career is just, it's amazing. So thank you very much.
Thanks.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Mr. Lancaster?
Yes, sir. Mr. Moore, so the position that you were talking about that each school would have as a counselor, basically a CTE counselor, is that, we don't have that in any of our schools currently, correct?
Correct, yes, sir.
Is that a position, would that be more of a specialized counselor, or are there other districts that see that? Is that something we're kind of creating a position? How's that?
There are some other, I meet once a month with other CT directors around us, and this is a position that some of those counties put in place a year or two ago with great success, and lots of counties like us want to add this moving forward. We haven't put a lot of boundaries around who they can hire, because my first thought is not to lose teachers, because we have so many great teachers. It's tough to, especially in CTE, it's tough to fill those spots. And so we've kind of made it pretty open as far as what the requirements are going to be for those positions, to let principals have a lot of say over who they're going to look for in those spots.
Okay. But it's not, I guess, I didn't know if that was like who applied for that? Like, is it a counselor? If there's already these people running around?
It could be. It could be a teacher. It could be a counselor. It could be neither one of those.
Role or exactly what that was.
So we've got a job description built, and then we're going to put a document together, and a frequently asked question document for principals, and so they're fully prepared when this is approved by the state and by us and the commission, that they can move forward with that. And so the job description, I mean, it's got a lot of points to it. But again, it could be a counselor, it could be a teacher, it could be neither of those. It could be somebody that they just feel like has good ties to the community and good ties to their local employers and can build those relationships.
Okay, but ideally, we would have one at each high school. So that would
Correct. We've got in the budget for the 8 schools that get $1 million, part of that $1 million is money for this position. Yes, sir.
Okay, and that seems to be, based on most of this, seems to be more one-time things. That would be the only potential recurring
correct
item in it.
Yes, sir.
And real quickly, out of all these cool things that these other places are getting, the poor finance folks, I mean, is there not any cool?
Hey, we do have
You don't have
a few schools that have a bank, so that the banks are pretty cool.
You know.
So you got that.
Thank you, Ms. Lancaster.
We always do short end.
But I can't see your light, Ms. Andrews.
It's on.
Ms. Andrews.
Yes. Chase, thank you for this.
Yes, ma'am.
You know, CTE is my heartbeat here in Sumner County. I think I'm its biggest fan. I love CTE. I love what we do. I love what we offer our students. I will say that Mr. Langford's heard enough from me that I feel like part of those positions in the high school are specifically for me, because to have somebody in our high schools that has those connections and understands the needs within the community, that can go to a student and be like, okay, hey, what do you want to do? Okay, you know, we have students that come into high school that they have no clue. We have students that go, I just want to graduate, and then there are other students that know exactly what they want to do. And for those students that, you know, are like, I don't know, or you know, kind of even on that non-college bound path going, you know, my favorite question to ask is, hey, you know, what do you want to do after high school? What are you passionate about? And then when they tell me, go, well, do you know about this? Well, what about this program? And, you know, when we build our high school schedules, that's so important, not to just stick a kid in a class because that's where the opening is, but to do it specifically for them. One of my really good friends, her son really struggled last year. He really struggled last year, but then this year, and I knew he would love it, he's in agriculture, and he is a farm kid through and through, and that kid is thriving this year because he's in the right classes. And I just think that having that person in each of our schools to come alongside teachers, to come alongside the guidance counselors, to look at these kids and say, hey, you know, like, what can we do for this kid? You know, and then to continue to offer the new programs. You talked about the heavy equipment. I think it was when actually
Yes,
like
ma'am.
Liberty Creek was being built or whatever. I looked around and I'm like, wait a minute. How do these kids, you know, how do people learn how to drive these massive, you know, this massive equipment? That was the largest equipment I've ever seen in my entire life. It's massive. And Shay said, Bunny, you should say that. I've been talking to Ball State and we're going to have a class for him. And I'm like, of course you are. So it's always fun and exciting when you come and speak to us because there's always something new. I will say this to Mr. Lancaster is just before the world shut down for COVID, Burris had the opportunity to go to JA BizTown. If you don't know about BizTown, Junior Achievement BizTown, it's one of the coolest things that our elementary kids can do. It's this little town that's literally in like a warehouse. I mean, there's like a Journeys, there's a bank, and the kids spend a massive amount of time learning different roles, applying for jobs. There's even a mayor that has to, you know, campaign and run and be elected. And they spend a day out there running the town. Just prior to COVID, they were fixing to launch. They actually have a middle school version of that, and there's some financial aspects and so forth that they can do. So I'm hoping that that's something that we will encourage our middle schools to look at because it'll be a great opportunity for them, especially for any of the students who have already been to BizTown, to get that next aspect of it. I will ask kind of what Mr. Lancaster said is the positions though at the school. This is one-time funds, so I assume that we will be looking at the budget and gradually be building that in so that once this money is gone, those positions will stay.
Yeah, so we typically, on any state grant that comes to us, and this was true with ESSER 1, 2, and 3, we try to limit additional positions, primarily because you always have to be mindful of when that grant ends, are those people going to transition back to a job they had previously, or you're going to have to build them into the general purpose budget, so you have to make some adjustments for that. So yes, that'll be a discussion that if they are successful in that role and it's helping our students, then over the next 3 budget cycles, you'll need to be prepared as you move forward, whether to add those into the general purpose budget at that time or not. So it'll be a decision that'll have to be made, you know, years down the road, but it will be something that needs to be planned for.
And then additionally, since we are kind of heading into budget season and talking about funds, and I know there's a lot of discussion, you know, as far as school funding and so forth, that because this is one-time funds, this does not affect our maintenance of effort. Is that correct?
Yeah, this is just state funds, yeah. So it has nothing to do with local maintenance effort.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Ms. Hawkins?
Yes, to build on Ms. Andrews' question about people who will be teaching the classes that use this equipment, will you be using the idea of allowing skilled workers to who don't have their teaching certificate to take training, and such as retired welders or people who are not teachers by trade but who have the skills and the knowledge to teach the skills to use this equipment?
I think it's twofold answer. One is all the equipment that you saw here tonight, no new teachers are going to be required for that. So those are all the equipment into our current programs that we already have. So nothing that I showed you tonight needs, only new personnel is the career coaches. That's it. Everybody else is current teachers. However, every year we do have to hire new CTE teachers. And when that happens, it's a combination of education and experience. So for example, to teach welding, if you've been a welder for 8 years, all you need is a high school diploma. Now, when you start teaching, you've got to go back and get your education classes. But for CTE, typically, as long as you have the experience, that gets you in the door, and then you have to get your education classes within 3 years while you're teaching.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. Gregory?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm more familiar, actually, with the TCAP in Portland. that school has done amazing work.
I agree.
Not just for our community, but for the entire county.
Mhm.
We have students from every high school in Sumner County, and some in Robertson County, actually.
Yep. They've got their largest enrollment this year.
Largest enrollment. And education is supposed to change lives to the good. And believe you me, that school does. And I'm sure, we have other schools that do the same thing. I'm not saying some, only one.
Right.
But we have a great principal there, and it's just, well, to put it very honestly, it's over most of our heads. The things that they are capable of doing and getting promotions in industry, and they can get to some of their high school classes there even now. And so it's been a great thing, not, as I want to say, not just for a small area of the county, but the entire county. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. If you would turn your light off. Mr. Daniels.
Yeah, just a quick question following up on what Ms. Hawkins commented on. Dr. Phillips, could you mention or comment, I believe we've been approved by the state to actually offer the teaching certificates within Sumner County now, so that if we have those skilled laborers with the experience or the requirements to teach these programs, and they have that 3-year period to get that teaching certificate, I believe we can now offer them that through classes that are offered in Sumner County, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, so, and I didn't want to interrupt, but I'm glad you mentioned that. I think now there are 9 school districts in the state, maybe. Is that right? 3?
Like EPP?
Yeah, EPP.
Right.
3.
We'll be the third one, yes, sir.
Third. So we're the 3rd school district in the state of Tennessee to be approved to do that. And so we've been working now for 2 years, 2 solid years with the State Department and Mr. Ott, Dr. Alexander, the entire HR team. It was a very thorough process. Obviously, they don't want to just let anyone have that, but there are only 2 other school districts. We're the 3rd one that can take someone and allow them to be in the classroom teaching, but also finish their education portion of their coursework with us to become fully certified. And obviously it impacts a lot of areas, but CTE is one that it is kind of it's geared toward.
Yeah, if you think about
it's awesome. I forgot how many we're going to have in the first cohort, but I'm sure we'll have.
If you think about recruitment, I mean, it's a tough sell sometimes because it's a salary change between private industry and being a teacher. And then it's, oh, by the way, you have to pay to go back to college. Well, now we've been approved to be the college for these teachers. And so that's a tremendous recruitment and asset for us as a district to be able to offer that to our teachers. Say, hey, come to Sumner County, you're going to save all that money because we're going to be the college. And the curriculum we're going to use is tailored to you as a CTE teacher, and it's 100% applicable to you in the classroom. So we're very excited about having this.
Thank you, Mr. Moore. Appreciate all you do.
Thank you. Appreciate that.
Next item on the agenda is discussion and interaction regarding the revision of policy 1.404, appeals to and appearances before the board upon first reading. Is there a motion? A motion?
Motion to approve.
Motion approved by Mr. King. Is there a second?
Second.
Second by Mr. Lacy. Discussion?
Does anybody?
Mr. Lacy?
Does anybody have any questions? I'd like to read it. Like I said, the board desires that we strongly encourage that all matters be settled at the lowest level of responsibility and discourages appeals, complaints, or concerns which have not advance through the proper procedures from the point of origin. You know, we'd love to, if you can email us, you can call us, we'll respond to you. You know, if you email somebody directly, I always try to respond to anybody that emails me. You email me directly, I'll respond to you. I do that to everybody. I believe that's common courtesy. We removed, under appearing before the board, individuals desiring to appear before the board shall only speak about a board agenda items. We removed that and added, individuals desiring to appear before the board can only speak to matters related to Sumner County Schools. Speakers may not use names or other individuals or groups. Just kind of keep it simple, where people can't be ugly, they can't be rude to one another, just to be nice to each other. It's pretty simple. However, individuals desiring to appear before the board and wish to speak about a board agenda item will be given priority to speak ahead of individuals who wish to make objective comments regarding Sumner County Schools. So agenda items gets first priority. Does anybody have any questions? And on the back is where I try to give the chairman as much control as possible. It says the chairman shall have authority to terminate the remarks of the individual who is considered abusive. I added, this is at the discretion of the acting chairperson. The chairperson may also immediately terminate the remarks of the individual who speaks of items unrelated to Sumner County Schools. So you as the chairman, you would have complete control. If somebody came in here and wanted to talk about something that was inappropriate or was not related to Sumner County Schools, you as the chairman would have complete control. We would have order and it would not be chaos. And down at the very bottom, we added the chair shall refuse to acknowledge an individual if the item listed on the sign-up form is not related to Sumner County Schools. You know, I probably would like to have this a little bit broader, but I tried to make it where we could come together and maybe agree on something. You know, if we have people to sign up and they take up the full time on agenda items, well, they may not get to speak this meeting. If they come back the next meeting and we have an open time frame, then you could speak about your non-agenda items. I actually had one of my citizens email me this week, and they actually go to the Gallatin City meetings, and he has to be at every meeting, and he said that we do this. It's not a problem. People come to the meeting, and if they want to speak, they speak. It's generally not an issue. I think this would be reasonable for us. You know, I actually had a guy send me another message and said, you know, if we're not here to listen to the people, who's making our decisions for us? You know, like if somebody feels like that they're being ignored, maybe it'd be great that they could come and speak to us. They can say what they want to say. I think that's reasonable. And I challenge my fellow board members, you know, please allow this to happen. If you do, I think you would be considered that you're reasonable in your community. Allow the people to speak. The people who put us in this seat, allow them to be able to come and address you. Sometimes they may not feel like they're being heard by emails, and they can come talk to us. I think that's pretty simple. Does anybody have any questions that I can help?
Seeing none, ready to vote. All in favor say aye.
I don't have a question, but I wanted to add some comments. So, yeah, I just want to remind everybody that this policy was changed in 2016. Prior to that, it was the policy since 2000, actually, from 2000 to 2016, we allowed non-agenda items on public comments, and there wasn't an issue. Doesn't seem to be an issue at that time. Several of the board members that are currently on the board served for quite a few years before this policy was changed in 2016, and never made a motion to change the policy. It was changed in 2016. Well, for me, if we're going to restrict the public, if we're going to increase restrictions on the public, there's got to be a compelling reason to do so. And looking back, I don't see a compelling reason. To me, it just seemed like somebody was going to talk. The board didn't like what that person was going to say, and so they changed the policy. Board policy says that you can only waive a second reading when there's a matter of unusual urgency. I don't remember there being a matter of unusual urgency. So there wasn't a second reading on this. And, I just think that it's a level of accountability that we're missing. We need, the public needs to have, they need to be able to speak to their representatives. It's a way to hold us accountable, to hold the district accountable. Things come to light that we may not have known about. And when they can speak before the board, it really is the most efficient way. If you send an email, one of us might get it, but not everyone on the board. If you come to the board and you speak, we'll all hear it. It'll be a matter of public record. The media will be able to see that. And you'll be answering questions that maybe a lot of other people have as well. And so that's very efficient. If we're going to be about public education, we can't keep the public out of public education. Okay, so if we're going to say that we're public education advocates, we really need to be careful to not have policies that restrict the public and keep them out of public education. That doesn't make sense to me. So I think this is a good thing. I'm going to be a yes on this policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Hawkins?
We are elected as representatives of the voters of Sumner County. We do hear you. We have avenues where you can contact us. You can email us. Our phone numbers are listed on the website. You can call us. The time to have conversations with your representative is prior to our business meeting. We are policymakers. We are not, we don't deal with personnel issues. We don't deal with issues with principals. Our one employee is the superintendent. And we put him into motion and he makes sure that your children are educated. We make the policies that he and his employees follow. So if you have an issue where you want a policy changed or you have a question about policy, come to us, call me, email me, and we can get it on the agenda. That is the most efficient way for government to run. If everyone comes in and has a huge conversation here, no one gets heard. But we have been elected to represent your voice. So contact us and let's have this conversation prior to the meeting. And I will also point out that the County Commission does not allow anyone to speak on anything but what's on their agenda. So if we're talking transparency and being accountable, you can't say that we aren't without saying that the County Commission isn't either. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Ms. Lexi, are you?
Yeah, what if one of our constituents feels that we're not listening to them? What can they do? If basically that we just disagree with them and they don't really feel like we're listening to them, this is an option that they can come and feel like they've been heard. You know, a few years back, we removed this public speaking opportunity. Do y'all believe it was a good idea? Several of you were on the board at that time. Dr. Phillips was here. Do you think it was a good idea? The chairman?
Well,
I believe the chairman was here at the time this was removed.
we're ready to vote if you're ready to.
Well, I was asking you a question. Maybe I would like to know your thoughts. Do you think it was a good idea to remove public comments?
I voted for the policy then, I'm gonna vote against the policy tonight.
I figured you would.
Yeah. So, are you done?
Yes, sir.
All right.
So just for clarification, there are a couple of government bodies in Sumner County that allow for non-agenda items, and maybe not the county commission, but I believe Hendersonville City, Boma, and I think Gallatin City Council. Maybe I'm wrong, but I know there's a couple, and they run their non-agenda items very efficiently. I don't think that having this policy is going to be a free-for-all. It wasn't when it was in play, when it was for 16 years. I don't think it was abused, and I don't think it'll be abused going forward. So I just wanted to say that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ready to vote? Let's do a roll call. Mr. Johnson?
Yes, sir. Ms. Hayes? No. Mr. Lancaster?
Yes.
Ms. Andrews? No. Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins?
No.
Mr. Daniels?
No.
Mr. Gregory?
No.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer?
No.
Motion fails 6-3.
All right, next item on the agenda is, get my glasses on. Discussion and interaction regarding revision to policy 4301, interscholastic athletics on first reading.
Mr. Chairman, I believe item 2 through 6 are all changes based on state law. And so I'd like to make a motion that we combine items 2 through 6 and waive second reading. Yes, sir, unless someone wants to pull one of those policies out.
Is there a second? Second, Ms. Hayes. Any discussion? Seeing none, Mr. King.
Yeah, I just noticed that over the last week or so, the number 5, the draft policy for action regarding a revision to policy 5.802, qualifications and duties of the director of schools upon first reading. And it appears that was changed. It appears that the draft policy originally said that director of schools would require a doctorate, a teacher's license, and upper level administrative experience beyond that of principal. And now when I clicked on it today, and I'm noticing that has all been removed. So I just wanted an explanation as to why,
So I think that was based on, one, the baccalaureate degree or higher is state law. And then 2, the second sentence allows the board maximum discretion at the time of the opening, just like you went through the process to set the requirement for this search. It doesn't put into policy requirements that a future board would have to comply with at the time of an opening beyond what the state law is. So it's actually more inclusive of future boards and what they may want to do when an opening does occur in this position.
Let me.
That's why we're trying to.
Let me just chime in here just for a second. We can still discuss this, but the motion on the floor is to group 2 through 6 together as one vote. And when we get to discussion, we can still discuss each individual item if you want to. So that
I think his motion was group and approve, right?
motion seconds to group 2 through 6 and approve and waive second reading. We got a motion and a second. Any discussion on that?
I know, like that Mr. King said, am I allowed to speak? I know you're the chairman.
Mr. Lacy?
Yes, sir. Look, this is completely night and day different than what we discussed the last time we were here, and it's like we're trying to hide from the public what's going on. I mean, this is 4 or 5, 3 or 4 things that we're wanting to combine and not even talk about. Is that correct?
That's correct. They're all based on state law. They're all just.
So what did we change? I'd like to know more about what we changed on the director's search qualification.
We can do that, but we've got to address the motion that's on the floor at this point.
But if we accept it, we're not even. Are we still going to be able to discuss it?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So the motion is to group them together, all in one vote, and waive second reading. Am I correct on that, Mr. Daniels?
Yes, sir.
All right. All in favor of the motion?
Yeah, I'm just still confused. You're saying we can discuss it after we all approve these items?
We're not
We're
voting
not
to
approving
approve
them,
them.
we're approving.
We're
them.
grouping
gonna
them
vote
together
on
to
all in
vote.
one-
in
I
one
got
group.
you. Okay.
All
All right.
right, is that one vote, instead of doing each individual vote, just grouping them together and vote one time on them, but yes, we can still discuss.
Okay, I'm one step ahead of you. I got you.
Yeah. So all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. All right, now we're back to the discussion on the main motion. But we need a motion on to approve or disapprove, whichever one.
Motion to approve.
Motion to approve the items 2 through 6. And I believe we already approved waiving second reading on that.
Yes, sir.
So, all right, now we're in discussion. If you'd like to discuss any of those items. Mr. Lacy, would you like to discuss the items now?
Well, I'd like to know what we changed in the qualifications. Why did we go so dramatically different than what y'all discussed and wanted to approve the last time we were here?
I believe Dr. Phillips just approved.
Yeah, 5.801, I don't think anything changed from what we talked about. 5.802, nothing changed from what was discussed previously, with the exception of at the beginning of the policy draft, it had the requirements that you guys had just voted on for your director search currently, right? All we did was use the state law language that says you have to have at least a baccalaureate degree or higher, and the language that was in our current policy that says the board at the time of the opening basically can set the requirements, anything they want to above the minimum, which is the state law. So it basically just restores this policy that we're voting on now, basically gives any future board the maximum ability to do just what you did, which was to set the requirements, anything above the minimum that they choose to do, which I think is the right thing to do.
All right, thank you, Dr. Phillips. Mr. Lancaster?
Yeah, that's kind of what I was, I guess, going to make sure of. But in other words, in the future, when we have or whenever a future board, maybe I'll win the lottery and not on this anymore, but and move, not because I'm just too rich, move somewhere. But in the future, we would, a board would, I did not like that part of policy 5 is where we basically set in policy that a future director had to be a doctorate and had to meet all the background qualifications. Every board, as they become, it's their person that they're hiring, then they would decide at that time what the minimum qualifications is. So I like this change that at least reverts back to that minimum and gives the future boards their guiding principles on how they want to do that. So, thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Lancaster. Seeing none, no other. All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, unfinished business, discussion and action regarding amendments to the general purpose budget. Is there a motion? Motion approved. Motion approved by Mr. Daniels, second by Mr. Gregory. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? Seeing none, motion carries. Next item on the agenda, discussion and action regarding amendments to the federal budget. Is there a motion? Motion approved by Mr. Gregory, second by Mr. Lancaster. Any discussion? Mr. King.
Yeah, so I'm just looking at, let's see, item 142.952, I believe is the one. And this is the early literacy grant where we are going to approve funding for School Kit. I just have a couple of questions. It says we're going to pay $50,000 to School Kit, and I had sent an email to Dr. Langford. Thank you for giving me some information. But another question I have is what kind of training is this $50,000 going to be paying for? Like, is it a session? Are they doing it online? What is this?
So it's quite a bit. It's when the governor created, when they had the special call session, legislative session, they created Reading 360, a statewide reading initiative. They created 2 different types of grant support for districts to provide more training to their teachers. in foundational literacy. So the early literacy that's on the agenda tonight with foundational literacy comes through. So basically the way that it works is that the state created this grant. They encouraged us to join in, and they provided us $50,000 training. They had an RFP and screened who the vendors were, and then they gave us a choice of, I think, 3 to 5 different vendors to choose from. But basically, the negotiation of the price and everything is set at the state level. They send us the money, we pay the vendor. The services that they provide for this grant, it's early literacy, so they work in our youngest grades, training principals, assistant principals, lead educators, teachers, a variation of different groups on how, it's leadership training and skills-based training on how to implement primarily foundational language training, phonics. So, it's a mix. Sometimes it's in person. Sometimes they come and do walkthroughs, and they help leaders see, what does good foundational literacy instruction look like, or where are some areas we can improve. Sometimes it's a skills-based training session for teachers or principals. Sometimes it's virtual, sometimes it's in person. It's a mix, but it's quite a few hours. But again, all that stuff is governed by the state contract. We just basically utilize the vendor and pass through the money to them per the state contract.
Okay, so there were multiple vendors, so we could have picked a different program. Is that right?
There were about, I think, either 3 to 5. It was Instruction Partners, TNTP,
okay.
NIET, and School Kit. Okay. We chose School Kit because they were strongest on professional, their kind of niche is providing professional development. Okay. We didn't need as much of what the other service providers focused on. Each one has a little bit different niche.
Okay, so I looked through, I know online they offer some free training modules. Mm-hmm. And so I was going through that, and it looks like, the tutoring, all the tutoring aspects of it look okay. They look good, going through all of that, it just seemed legit. Mm-hmm. One module caught my attention. It was the first module, and I have some concerns about this module. And they begin by giving an overview or a summary or just an overview of why students aren't making progress. And obviously that's a question we all have. And I just want to share with you their take on this. Why aren't students making progress? It is because of inequities that have existed for far too long in our systems. And then they direct the trainee to watch a video and look at this issue of literacy and equity from a historical lens. It is important that we acknowledge this history so that we can begin to do better. And so I watched this video, and basically what the video does is basically says that it's arguing for phonics, right, versus rote memorization. Mm-hmm. And the argument for phonics is that going back to the period of slavery, that free blacks engaged in phonics when they learned to read. They were coding and decoding and going through the syllables. And then the blacks that were enslaved in states that had anti-literacy laws, they were doing rote memorization. Okay, and so we're comparing phonics to rote memorization. The argument is for phonics. Mm-hmm. And at one point in the video, the presenter said, "I'm going to speak my truth now." And she said basically that, she said that Missouri prohibited blacks to read and write, anti-literacy laws. This is the history, but I'm here to tell you that this history has a legacy, and this legacy has legs. And those legs walk into your school, and they predict your practices and policies and your beliefs around building literacy for children of color. And then she went and said that if you're debating and arguing for rote memorization, you are, quote, swimming in the anti-literacy laws. in other words, if you're using rote memorization as a pedagogical practice, that is rooted in white supremacy. And then she made the case for phonics. And now I find this to take our current pedagogical practices and somehow find a connection to the anti-literacy laws of the 1700s and 1800s, I find to be that's some serious mental gymnastics to me. I find it actually a little bit ridiculous. And remember, she said that in that video, she said, this is my truth. And so what I gathered from that is this is her theory about race, and she searched critically until she found the answer she was looking for. So I'm very concerned about that we're going to be subjecting our teachers, tutors, to this kind of philosophy, which is philosophy, it's a theory, at taxpayers' expense. So again, the phonics, we teach rote memorization, right? We do sight words. Are we teaching sight words?
I think, Mr. King, I haven't watched that video. My understanding is that School Kit is contracted to provide a very select set of services for the Tennessee Department of Education. I can certainly investigate and see what's been. I mean, I'm looking at, the majority of what ours is it's on-site coaching, check-in meetings with leadership teams, pre-K training, things like that. I can certainly see. I've not heard anything of those type modules being taught.
I mean, I would just like to see some of the training materials to make sure that, this kind of thing is not we're not subjecting teachers to this. There's so many reasons why children are struggling to read. It is not because of the anti-literacy laws over 200 years ago. So I find that to be ludicrous. So I would appreciate that. In the meantime, and like I said, the phonics element, once it got past this whole this introduction, it went through and it looked like pretty good ideas on phonics education.
Where I would comment is and I'm not defending, I have no stake in School Kit. It's a vendor that we use. We can certainly investigate to see what happened or what, it's hard sometimes for a company that serves all over the country, the modules that they might use in another part of the country they probably don't use here. We'd have to investigate and see that, but we can certainly inquire of School Kit. I would say probably some of what they're catching is that I don't think it's necessarily that you're against rote memorization. There are two very distinct ways of teaching kids how to read. The history of the last 30 years has been heavily focused on a 3 cueing theory where you use pictures to guess what the words are. That has been proven, if you fall into the science of reading discussions now, 3 cueing does not work. Texas just outlawed it. Tennessee moved away from it 2 years ago. States across the country are doing that, but if you go to a state like California, only 6 districts out of 1,100 have made the move to a foundational literacy phonics-based approach. So a lot of what the cueing theories emphasized was the memorization of hundreds and hundreds of sight words, memorization of other things. And the problem is that when kids get to about 3rd, 4th grade, whatever gains you see in the early grades fall off. So again, I don't have any dog in the hunt on School Kit other than the fact that it's a vendor that met TDOEs. We can certainly check into that. But the idea of rote versus foundational literacy is a big debate now that Tennessee is very firmly taking the side of foundational literacy.
Yeah, and I think phonics is awesome. I think there are times when rote memorization, sight words, is a great technique. That's rote memorization. Anyway, so all of that being said, I would like to make a motion that we divide the question, that we remove this item for future study, for future analysis. So let's postpone definitely. I'm getting my Robert's rules wrong, but postpone this item for maybe a study session, and then or future voting, just to give us some time to really, for board members to kind of dive in. So I guess I move that we postpone definitely this one item off of this budget amendment.
So I think your motion, sir, is to table the motion.
Well, you're making a motion to remove that item from this.
Right.
From this, but to postpone it to the next study session.
You just put it on the study session.
Right.
Really, you just want it tonight to be removed from the budget amendments.
Right, exactly.
Yeah,
Mr. Chairman,
just that one.
could I get a clarification?
Just that one item,
as to
yes.
Which item?
Yeah.
It's item 2.
173.
142952.
142952.
173, yes.
Awesome, thank you.
Is that the correct one, Mr. King?
It's 173,
173.
yes.
So his amendment would be to remove budget 173, the amendment from tonight's amendment.
All right. Motion been made. Is there a second?
I'll second.
Seconded by Mr. Lacy. Discussion on the motion on the amendment.
So basically.
I saw Mr.
Oh, sorry, my apologies.
Mr. Lacy.
So basically you're concerned that it could be critical race theory embedded into the curriculum, or?
Well, I just want to know if I'm seeing this kind of training online for free, what are we giving our, we're paying for a program, a tutoring program, a training program for tutoring. I just want to see if any of that kind of material is being paid for at taxpayers' expense.
Mr. Gregory?
No comment.
Ms. Andrews?
Yeah, so a couple of questions. One, Dr. Langford, you said that this was approved by the State Department of Education, is that correct?
That's correct.
And per state law, we are not allowed to have any type of CRT in our schools, is that correct?
That's correct.
If we do defer this for further investigation, is there any type of timeline or so forth that we'll be impeding on?
No, we would have plenty of time. Like, we don't have to pay for the service until June, so we can certainly look into it. I was just looking. I was trying to look on Mr. King. Did you were looking on the free service that they have for tutors? Is that?
Yeah. Where it's I guess series of modules for training.
Sure. Because when I look at it, we use it for early literacy. It's a separate. This is a free service for tutors. But we can reach out to School Kid and ask for an explanation, and try to gather some information for you. That should be pretty easy for us to do.
Motion been made and seconded. Any voting on the amendment to remove that item?
Yes, it's removed. You gotta get
A yes vote is removing it, yes.
Yes,
Or
vote
post-
is to approve the amendment to remove 173.
Yes.
That's all right. That's all right.
Especially when I'm second in line.
All right, you want to do a roll call vote?
Roll call, please.
Ms. Hayes? Mr. Lancaster? Ms. Andrews? Mr. King?
Yes.
Ms. Hawkins? Mr. Daniels? Mr. Gregory? Mr. Lacy?
Yes.
Chairman Brewer?
Yes.
All right, motion carries.
All right, back to the rest of the motion, or the item, discussion interaction regarding amendments to the federal budget, with the exception of.
I move to approve with the amendment.
Motion been made to approve with the amendment.
Second.
Second by Mr. King. Any discussion on that? Seeing none, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed? All right, motion carries. Next item on the agenda is discussion of study session items. Mr. Lancaster?
The only thing I would, of course, like to bring up and make that we add to the study session is a update on my favorite topic, the third grade retention. I believe I looked today. I know there's, I think, 3 bills that are in, probably maybe more than that, but I believe there's 3 in the education committee. Are there 4 now?
More.
Oh, more than 3. Okay. But I think that's all been delayed until March 7th. So I told Ms. Hessen that she could get us a recap by that evening's study session. I felt like so. But just in case, has the state Board of Education said anything about when their guidance or any updated guidance or anything?
No, I think they're kind of all in a holding pattern now. I know that there are a lot of the bills that are coming forward are up in committee on Wednesday, so hopefully we'll have a little bit feel what comes out of committee. I mean, obviously that won't be through the House, but the committee things will.
And I guess, I know we had talked about doing some Facebook Lives. Are we thinking what timeline that might be? Or
As soon as I hate to do that until we know a little bit more concrete. Like I hate to do something, and because I can promise you, if we do something, then there'll be a decision the next day that will run counter to what we just said the night before, and so we're ready to go as soon as we can get some more concrete information.
Yeah, that's fine. Just like I say, I honestly, for the next 3 months, if we just have a quick update on what's going on with that
Yes,
every
sir, we can
study
do that.
session, I think would be great.
Yes, sir.
Because it's probably the number one topic I get asked about from, not necessarily from emails, but from going out into the community and seeing people at school and things like that. It's like, what's going on with that? And I'm like, I just want to know at this moment. So.
Lancaster, Mr. Johnson.
All right, other items of interest that we will have on the next study session is our continuing discussion of policy 4.403, reconsideration of instructional materials and textbooks. We will have the dress code committee coming to make their recommendation. Tomorrow, a survey should go out to parents with the draft of the dress code committee so we can gather feedback that can be given to you guys as part of that presentation. We'll send everybody an email with what we're sending out to parents in the morning so you can see it before it goes out to parents in the afternoon. We will also have the math textbook adoption committee recommendation.
Thank you, Mr. Johnson. Next item on the agenda is communication from board members. Mr. Lacy, we'll start with you.
Yeah, I actually had a constituent send me an email. The school system recommended ABA therapy for her son. She said the school made the suggestion of him to get an ABA therapy, but the issue is board code or board policy 3.206 Sumner County Schools Code states that it is not permitted for outside therapists to come onto the school property for a student to receive services. For his age group, there is not another way for him to receive ABA therapy. This is due to the age cutoff for children through some programs, and others are due to therapy starting before he gets out of school. This board code 3.206 makes it immensely complicated for children and their families. This code 3.206 makes it extremely complicated for some children with disabilities to perform to the best of their ability while in the classroom setting. This AB therapy can be the key to success for children with disabilities like my son. And we're here to help kids, and we do so much good for kids, but just that it could be the key for helping her child get to learn to the best of his ability. And I understand we have our policy set where they can't come into the school system. I've talked with Dr. Phillips, and I understand why we don't allow outside therapists to come into the schools. But I would think that we could put our great minds together to protect kids, to protect Sumner County's interest, and still be able to allow therapists. I'm thinking if you're a therapist that works with kids, you already got a background check somewhere. If they come into our school system, make them sign a waiver, whatever that waiver says that, we're not responsible for them getting hurt, make sure they've got insurance, make the parents sign off. But somehow you would think we would want to get these kids the help that they desperately need. And apparently you can't get this trainer, this therapy any other time than school hours. So it just breaks my heart because, like I said, you want to help everybody. And I know we can't necessarily help everybody, but to me it seems like something that's really easy. That we could adjust our policy, maybe put some waivers in place, and just allow this child to get help. I think she went and said like 1 out of 44 children have this need for ABA therapy, and it can be the key to success for children with disabilities like my son. So maybe if you could put within your heart to maybe look at this policy, see if it's something that you would be willing to change. Because, you know, we're all about helping kids, and I understand we want to protect our school system from being sued. But I would think there's a way that we could help this child. It breaks my heart because I know my daughter, she goes to different therapies, and my wife runs her all over the place. We do everything we can to help her to be successful. But apparently the only time they can get this therapy is during school hours. So please consider, let's look into this to help this family.
Thank you, Mr. Lacy. Mr. Gregory?
I'd like to talk about reading for a second. Reading is a very complex, believe it or not, subject to teach. It's not like math. It's not abstract. Reading is difficult, more difficult now than probably when we grew up because children read less books now and usually have one of these in their hand all the time. I noticed last night on TV there were 6 or 7 college kids at a ball game, and every one of them was using it. So I would like to just mention the fact that some teachers, well, let's rephrase that, all teachers who teach reading do not teach it alike to be successful. And you know why? Because all children do not learn alike. There are differences in learning styles that helps that, and I know I can tell by the look on a few faces out here, they don't believe that, but I promise you, I appreciate the nods I'm getting now too. Learning styles has a lot to do with how teaching styles need to be. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Gregory. Mr. Daniels?
Yeah, I'd mentioned this a little bit earlier, but tonight, right now, is the 4-H speech contest at Schaefer. There's, I think, over 100 4th and 5th graders that are doing 2 to 4 minute speeches right now in different rooms, and it's really exciting and kind of cool that they get that opportunity. I know we're starting to finish up I guess the winter sports seasons with basketball and regional tournaments kind of going on, but we've got a lot of other things going on in our school district that's really exciting too. I've seen a lot of comments and posts and mentions of our choral programs, our theater programs. We've got a lot of students doing a lot of great things, and I just want to kind of acknowledge and recognize them and appreciate all they're doing within their schools as well.
Thank you, Mr. Daniels. Ms. Hawkins.
Thank you. I posted this on social media, but not everybody uses social media, and I thought this might be a nice opportunity to give a little report about the Tennessee School Board Association Legislative and Legal Institute, where I attended a 2-day conference last week in Franklin. There were over 200 board members there from all over the state, and I really had a good time just getting to know them, and especially the people I sat with from Tipton County and West Tennessee. We had a lot of conversations about what's going on in their schools, just getting a broad perspective on the whole state. We began with a question and answer session with House Speaker Cameron Sexton, where he explained why he was supporting the rejection of $1.8 billion in federal funds for Tennessee education. I will say that the general consensus, just from the response of the attendees, was they did not like that. When we had times where we could come up to the microphone and ask him specific questions, and when he was asked why he supports this proposal to refuse this money, he said that it would allow us more freedom from federal regulations. And basically he said that if we don't take their money, then we don't have to do what they tell us to do. And board members countered that, said that it's not their money, but it's our money, it's our tax money, it's our federal income tax that goes to Washington, and then we would be blocking it at the state line to come back in and pay for Tennessee families. When he asked what regulations were so offensive that we would reject $1.8 billion, Speaker Sexton said that we could do away with TCAP testing and that we could package up leftover food from school cafeterias and send it home to hungry children instead of having to throw it away. Those were his only examples. School board members countered that the TCAP exam that Sexton wants to do away with is the same standardized test that the 2021 reading law uses as the criterion to determine whether third graders can progress to fourth grade. After that, we had a question-answer session with a panel of 6 state representatives who serve on various education committees, including Chairlady Deborah Moody and Chairman Scott Sapicki. Discussion focused on the third grade retention laws, and again, school board members did not like it. It was obvious. The school board members said that number 1, third grade is too late to begin that evaluation process. Number 2, the $1.8 billion in federal money should be used to fund reading intervention programs from grades K through 2. And 3, that the tests are not gauged accurately to the standards for third grade reading proficiency, and that the tests are too demanding on grade level, which in turn will lead to more failures. And again, I'm quoting what board members got up and spoke to him. The panel members responded that there are other options for students. Struggling third graders could go to summer camp or get tutoring to help them get caught up and avoid retention. More than one panel member said that this will make parents get more involved in teaching their children to read. We also had lectures on student data privacy laws, open meeting laws, which are called the Sunshine Laws, and which school board meetings fall under the attorney-client privilege. Finally, discussion included the disturbing trend of teacher shortage and the diminishing number of college students graduating with teaching degrees. We were encouraged to reach out to our legislators to let them know how we feel about these things. And the Senate Education Committee meets on March 7, and Senator Farrell Hale serves on this committee. So I just felt like this was an important meeting, and it's open to all school board members to attend each year. They have one in the winter and they have one in the summer. So I found it to be very informative.
Thank you, Ms. Hawkins. Mr. King?
Yeah, so I also, like Mr. Lacey was saying, I've had a parent ask me about ABA therapy as well. And so that's a different parent, actually. So that's something I'd like to look at as well. On a different note, I did get to chaperone my son's choir trip down to Murfreesboro Friday, and the T.W. Hunter Choir did an excellent job. It really wasn't a competition. It was more like if you perform and you meet these standards, you win, and they won like all of the best award, the top awards. But also Gallatin High School's choir performed, and I was just stunned by how good they were. So I plan to attend their concert. It was that good, and I encourage everyone else to as well. They were awesome.
Thank you, Mr. King. Ms. Andrews?
Thank you. Happy FFA week. This week is National FFA Week, and which is another program that is very dear to my heart. It was my home in high school. It's where I found my place, and taught me many life lessons. But it's National FFA Week. I know we have one student I know from Beach High School that the end of March, when they go to the state competition, will be she's campaigning to be the state president. So I wish Maddie Rodell the best of luck. I believe Lillian Young is also running for an office, and I'm not sure which office she's running for, but I have seen some posts that she is seeking a state office. So I wish them the best. With that in mind, our school greenhouse sales will be coming up in the spring. They are absolutely, hands down, the best plants that you can purchase. They're the best price. So go and support those greenhouses when those things happen. Next week is Teacher Appreciation Week. Early thank you to all of our teachers, educators, staff, principals, everyone that comes in contact with our students. We have incredible people in Sumner County. Thank you just doesn't seem like enough, and I hope that each of you feel special and appreciated next week as we celebrate you. Looking ahead at the calendar, March 7th, we also have our juniors will be taking the free ACT at all of our high schools. So if you have a junior, if you haven't had any appointments that morning, if you can go ahead and move those, because that's important for them to be there. It is free. We do offer that to all of our juniors, sophomores, and freshmen. Those days are typically taking a practice test. Congratulations to all of our cheer teams. Sumner County represented extraordinarily in Orlando. Liberty Creek won national champions. We had, I don't remember the order now, we had teams that came in second, third, fourth. I mean, Sumner County was a bright, shining light down there. So I just want to say congratulations to all of those teams, dance teams. We've had state swim meets, state wrestling meets. It's a busy time in Sumner County, but congratulations to all of those students. We have DECA State coming up. We have FCCLA. I feel like my Google Calendar at my house is out of control and figuring out who's going to be where and when, but good luck to all the students that are competing this time of year.
Thank you, Ms. Andrews. Ms. Lancaster?
Gotta try to figure out why Mr. King's getting invited to the chaperone choir trips. My daughter didn't mention that one, even though she went on that as well for the TW 100 choir. But Miss Andrews stole my FFA week, and she stole my Liberty Creek winning the national championship for coming in first place. But I had people messaging me like who placed in what and what category, and I was trying to update people, and I don't know if I'll do that again. That was just too complicated to even think about, and I feel like I left somebody out, and somebody's probably mad at me because their kid, Mr. Lancaster didn't.
You have to know the person with the spreadsheet.
Yeah, I needed a spreadsheet because somebody was like, we came in 7th, and then they came back and said, no, we came in 2nd. And I'm like, how can you come in both 7th and 2nd? And they're like, oh, it's a different category. And then I was just lost. So, but outside of those things, February 15th, which was last week, was I'm losing track of thought here. School Resource Officer Appreciation Day. I was thinking SRO and couldn't think of what it stood for there for a second. But and I am very glad that we have a SRO in every school now. I know my daughter is getting used to the fact that Officer Joey is no longer at Beach Elementary because he moved to TW Hunter, but she's enjoying or getting to know Officer Jason, who is at Beach now. But and I just wanted to appreciate the work that all those guys do. The students, especially the elementary school students, absolutely love our SROs. I have seen one story that I will mention simply from Officer Joey's standpoint, and I was there doing something, I don't even remember what at this time, but I think I was serving Thanksgiving lunch at Beach Elementary, and I kept noticing there was a student sitting at a table by himself. And I thought, well, that's kind of weird that you're in 4th grade or 3rd grade and just sitting by yourself. And I was like, about to walk over and ask a teacher, like, hey, can you go check on that child? Because something just doesn't feel right. And all of a sudden, I see Officer Joey walk over, sit down, and just start talking to him. And that kid's face just lit up. And it was just, those guys and those men and women are heroes to those elementary school kids. So I really like, that fact that we have those in all of our schools now. And I mean, they're there to protect as well and keep our kids safe, but they serve more than just that role. And I don't know if everyone is just quite aware of just the level of service that they do provide for our students. Outside of that, next week is also Literacy Week. So there will be a return of a certain wolf character that reads to some of the kindergartners at some of the schools. But also, I've had a friend up here all day, or all meeting with me. This is Flat Stanley. I don't know if anybody's ever read Flat Stanley, but Miss Greer's kindergarten class at Station Camp Elementary is doing the Flat Stanley project. So after the meeting, if y'all don't mind, I'm getting brownie points with my daughter's old kindergarten teacher. Not that she's old. Previous kindergarten teacher. My daughter's quite young, previous kindergarten teacher that is now at Station Camp Elementary, and the kids are all sending these out. So evidently Flat Stanley had an accident when a bulletin board fell on him and squished him, for lack of a better word. And so he gets to go on little trips with different community people to their jobs, and you write a little journal about what their day was. And for a accountant that works from home, it wasn't too great of a story, but so I was like, well, I'll bring you to the school board meeting. At least it might be. At least you'll get outside and get some fresh air. But any opportunity that you can get in the next week or any time really, especially with kindergarten, that's my favorite kids to go read to, because they really believe you when you're the big bad wolf. And so if anybody's ever in Beach Elementary School and hears kids saying, "Hey, Mr. Wolf," to me, that's why. So anyway, thanks a lot.
Ms. Lancaster. Ms. Hayes?
I'm losing my voice. When you're at the end of the board comments, most everything's been covered. So I just do want to, on the cheer competition, what's so wonderful about this competition and the text messages I was getting and the posts I've been reading and talking to Harley from Hendersonville High School, Harley Fuquay, these cheer squads cheer each other on. She said it was one of the most beautiful things you've ever seen. Sumner County is just, they're like the it cheer county in the whole nation. And these cheer squads cheer each other on when they're up there competing. It's like they don't even consider it like a competing against each other. It's Liberty Creek was cheering for Hendersonville High School. Hendersonville High School was cheering for Liberty Creek. And all the squads, they're all in this together. And it's just a beautiful picture of what we really all need to be about, cheering one another on. So, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Hayes. And I have no comment, so we are adjourned.